Welcome back to the channel, guys. We are on part 2 of the Sugar Creek Loop. We are just northwest of the town of Hinton, Oklahoma. Just turned south off of old Route 66. Just drove through the tunnel under Interstate 40. If you haven't watched our first video on the Sugar Creek Loop, you should go back and watch it. The link will be in the description below. That waterfall and low water crossing was very pretty. It's certainly worth the little detour to get to it, so make sure that you stop and take a look at the waterfall. We've had to travel, I'm guessing, probably 3 or 4 miles of just plain, flat, straight gravel county roads to get to it, but certainly worth that to get to that waterfall. We are still on the northwestern part of the Sugar Creek Loop. Made it over to the low water crossing and waterfall and are working our way back to an east-west road so we can head over to the Mounds. We are off the Sugar Creek Loop slightly. We're probably 3 miles to the west of the Onyx mapped Sugar Creek Loop. We're gonna head over and take a look at a couple of the mounds. There's Dead Woman Mound and possibly Saddle Mound, just a half mile right in front of us. In the 1850s, the California Road passed through this area. Travelers on the California Road would use these mounds as markers to verify that they were on the correct path. Generally, the California Road followed the Canadian River north and west. On this trail, you will encounter several sections that are rutted and soft and sandy. Today has been a very scenic day. While there have been extended stretches of straight county roads with not much scenery, it's been consistent. Every 3 or 4 miles, there's a unique feature, a water crossing, a waterfall, a mound, or something like that that's interesting to stop and look at. That has continued on the trail south of Binger. You'll be driving along on a plain gravel road, not really much to look at, and then wow, you're all of a sudden in the middle of a beautiful place.
From roughly 5 miles west of Gracemont to 10 miles to the northeast of Gracemont, it's a winding 2-lane asphalt road. Then the asphalt road turns to a single-lane dirt road that leads to Purgatory Road. If you'll recall from the end of our video on part 1 of the Sugar Creek Loop, I ended at the top of Purgatory Road. Now we are approaching Purgatory Road from the south, headed north. This was by far the most challenging section of the trail. This is not something you would want to take a streetcar on, but any 4-wheel drive pickup or SUV would not have a problem. My son was with us this day in his completely stock 4-wheel drive Toyota Tacoma long bed and had no problems. This section is washed out numerous times over the years. If you look to the left, you can see floating fence posts where the barbed wire is basically holding the fence posts in place as the soil below it has washed away. This section is not impassable by any stretch of the imagination, but the video does not do it justice. It's pretty steep and rutted out. The county had been out here and reworked this road since my previous video, but all they did was pile up some loose sand and silt at the base of these drop-offs here. As you can see, I start to spin my tires as I'm trying to climb up through the sand. Probably would have been better off if I had just continued carrying my speed, but I stopped before I went up the second step. I made it up with little to no effort. I was running the camera, videoing my son driving his Tacoma up the hill, and I didn't do a very good job. Pointed the camera at the ground for the first half of his climb, but he made it up with even less effort than me.
we just climbed up Purgatory Road. They had done some work on the drop-off since I was out here 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was very soft and sandy. We were able to make it up it. I don't know how much longer it's going to be passable like that, but it looks like they piled some really soft silt up against the drop-offs, and it was so dry that it was just crumbling away. So we were able to make it. My son was able to make it in his completely stock 4-wheel drive long bed Tacoma. Now we're on our way out. So we have completed the Sugar Creek Loop, 2 different segments, starting in essentially the same point, going in opposite directions, and ending at the same point. So maybe a slightly unique approach to the Sugar Creek Loop. But yeah, kind of my final thoughts on it are pretty much as advertised. It's a lot of straight, flat, relatively boring county roads. Some of them have, scenic fields and pastures and so forth, but sprinkled in to those long stretches of flat gravel roads are some very unique, even sometimes challenging obstacles, whether it be a scenic waterfall or water crossing. Certainly Purgatory Road was the most challenging in terms of an off-road challenge, but there are several other places that are fun, especially considering these are public roads. So all in all, I recommend the Sugar Creek Loop. I don't know that we will ever come back and run the entire 112 miles or whatever the number is, 100 plus miles, but certainly I plan to come out and run different segments. Thanks for joining us on our journey. I hope you learned something, and if you like this, be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more off-road builds and outdoor adventures.
Let me be free, that's all I know how to be. Let your heart be my home all the time.